So you've got these two DBs coming in. This guys are talking about what they'll bring, what you hope they'll bring.
Yeah, two active physical players out of St. John Bosco has been committed to us for a while. We just couldn't announce them until today. So both Jakey and John John. John John's a multiple sport kid. He will play baseball here. He was a very big recruit for John Savage, also on the baseball field. So in the fall he'll be with us, and in the spring he'll be with the baseball program. Both of them are safety prospects that come from one of the top high school programs in the country. They've got great instincts on the football field. They're really, really intuitive out there. So we're excited to see how they fit in the mix back there, and we'll really add them to Logan Lawyer, who we picked up as an early enrollee. So three kids from one of the top high school programs in the country.
What position in baseball?
He's an outfielder, but I know he's a closer and pitcher too. So John could tell you more specifically what he's going to play in that.
Do you have a history of having two sport athletes at Oregon?
We have. Eric Armstead was a football, basketball player. We had a bunch of track kids. We have Kaz and Otito that do it here. So to me, as long as they're doing well academically, and they can compete in the sport that they're playing at, it doesn't help if they're going to go be the 15th guy on the bench in the basketball team. But if they get a chance to play both sports, then I don't have an issue with it. I love multi-sport athletes. So.
Are you allowed to mention the guys that are already enrolled?
Yeah, we signed them in December.
Who are they? Who's enrolled now?
Mitchell Agude, Kenny Mestador, Jay Brian Struthers, Logan Loya. I know I'm missing one here. John Humphreys here early. Caleb Johnson is here. So those kids all enrolled.
That's 6 guys. They'll all be at spring.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody else?
There's 2 kids supposedly finishing up right now that will enroll in the spring term that starts that first week of April there. So Jeremiah Trojan and Matt Sykes are scheduled to come in then. So
Talk about the work that.
8.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Talk about the work that goes into building a pipeline with an elite program like St. John Bosco.
I don't know if you're building a pipeline. I just think you look at all the top programs. That's one of the great things about being here in Southern California is you get to go out. It's a drive to get over there and watch those kids train and work out. And, it's a school that we visit on a weekly basis, just like most of the schools in that league. The Trinity League is probably the premier league in high school football in the country. So there's a bunch of kids at both Bosco and Mater Dei and the rest of the schools in that league that you're going to go. You have the chance to go see them every week just because they're in our backyard. So we've got Stephen Blaylock, who's on our team, and a couple other kids that have played at those schools. So that always helps. But each class is unique, so it's not. One year you may have a couple, and other years you may not get a guy. But it really depends on what we're looking for, and then the fit both academically and athletically, because obviously there's some academic benchmarks that you have to hit to get into UCLA. So.
You're allowed to bring in 25 players a year, correct? How many more spots do you have available for 2020? One. Are you looking to bring anyone in via transfer?
Yep.
O-line maybe?
Anything. We're wide open at this point with our last spot.
You've only got 2 offensive linemen in the class. And now that Chris Murray's leaving, how do you feel that kind of sets you up in the future, especially since it takes offensive linemen typically time to develop?
Part of that, Chris left after we signed the class, so it's sometimes there's things that you have to take into effect. Same thing with Devin leaving early for the draft, and Darnay leaving early for the draft. So both of those left after the signing date. So you got to go through the process kind of. We have X amount of scholarships available to us that we can give out, and so on the 18th when we signed, that's kind of where we were. So, but again, we have 1 scholarship left available, so we'll look high and far and see. There'll be someone out there, I think, especially with the new transfer portal. There's a bunch of kids that go in and out. But the biggest thing for us here, taking a grad transfer, is getting into grad school here. It's actually more difficult than getting into undergrad here. So, finding the right kid that can fit in it. We were very fortunate. With Murph and Wilton in the first year, and then with Wade and Jason last year, we've had real good experience with the 4 kids we've taken. So we'll see how that comes and how that unfolds with that last spot.
You anticipated some of those guys leaving, though, right? Like Darnay and.
No, they didn't make their finals decisions till early January.
You knew it was a possibility.
Yeah, it's a possibility for anybody. So, yeah.
I'm just talking about roster management as far as filling needs that.
Yeah, but there's a possibility they weren't going to go either. So you can't say I'm going to take a kid and then say, hey, you can't come back because we gave your scholarship out. So until it officially happens, you anticipate some kids are going to commit to you, and then at the last second they commit somewhere else. you have to plan for all of those situations.
We've got a full year now, like probably 15 months total of the transfer portal. What are your thoughts on how it's working?
I think it's fantastic. I think it gives the kids an opportunity to see where they fit at their particular school. I would say in 90% of the instances when kids leave, it's because they're not playing at their school and they're trying to find a spot where they can fit in and play, and that's their right to do that. But I think the one misconception for the kids, and I hope they understand that, is just because you go in the portal doesn't mean you're going to get an opportunity either. Because we have one spot left, so you could have a first-team All-American. You could have two first-team All-Americans that go in the portal that both want to come here. We can only take one of them. So I think understanding the numbers that are out there, but just because you put your name in the portal, you may say, hey, I want to go to school X. We had a bunch of kids reach out to us last year in the springtime, but at that point in time, you're filled, so you don't have it. You're only allowed to sign 25 kids in a class, so you got to really kind of, it's the same thing that Ben just mentioned. You hold 5 scholarships saying, I think we're going to get 5 kids in the transfer portal, and then 5 kids can't get into school here, so then you're short 5 kids when you go back out in the fall. So it's kind of how you manage it, but I think the opportunity that's presented to the student athletes is, they should go to school where they want to go to school.
You had 2 guys who decommitted, or were those academic situations with those 2 guys?
I can't talk about anybody that was committed or not committed. So, and I don't know what's reported committed because we don't pay attention to that. So, I know what our situation was. So, you got to get into school here, and that's the biggest hurdle from almost all kids. So, but I can't comment on any kid that was, and I don't know who even you're talking about that was committed, not committed. So,
Siale Liku moved from D-line to O-line.
yeah, you did that last fall.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that was during the season.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any other? Do you foresee any other position changes?
There'll be a few. We'll tinker with a few things, and a lot of it's where the kid wants to play. So, there's some kids that have expressed interest in maybe trying a new spot. So we'll go through the spring and see if they can play at that new spot. So, but there's usually maybe 1 or 2 as you get into spring ball. But
Anything you could tell us? Like guys, you've already said we'll take a look at you at this spot.
I haven't. I know some kids have talked about it. We literally got off the road on Saturday, so we're back in. Today's Wednesday. It's our first 3 days back with our players, so we'll sit down and visit with those guys and talk to them about that. But most position switches, usually not switching a kid. We're not going to be switching a kid that's starting at one position to go play at another side of the ball. I mean that doesn't happen. It's just trying to find the right spot for the individual players that we feel as a staff that they're going to fit into what we do, and then really where they feel comfortable and what they want to do. So,
How close are you to getting a new D-line coach?
Close, we're in the process. You got to go through obviously HR and how that all works. And
So you've got somebody in mind?
We got a bunch of guys in mind, so, but I mean it's going through the process of when we can get the AOK from Morgan Hall and when we can go through the whole process, but we're in the middle of it right now, so I don't anticipate it would take very long.
Do you anticipate any other staff changes, or do you think the rest of the guys will come back?
You hope. I mean, you asked the same exact question last year,
Right.
and then 2 days later, Kevin Sumlin called me and said he wanted to talk to Paul about the defense coordinator job. So you never know, and in this profession, you can't predict who's going to do what. But I would hope that the group we have here. I don't want to. It's tough to get everybody up to speed. We're going to be on the field in less than a month, so we hope that all the guys have kind of looked at what the possibilities are, and that we're all coming back. So.
It's still early, and you've said you want to analyze the players, individually. But are any of the guys that are already enrolled early? Do you see them playing, getting some solid playing time next season?
Fall? No.
Next.
We're on
Too early?
what's February 5th. I don't. We haven't. I mean, all we've done is seen them, and they're doing a great job. All of those guys, working out with Frank and his guys. So we haven't seen them catch a ball or throw a ball or make a tackle or even put equipment on. So I mean, we've got a long ways before we have to make any evaluations there. But what they're doing right now from a work standpoint it's really impressive. So we're excited to see what it does. I mean, you can't. And for us, I know as a staff, we're really excited for that first practice in March. So that we can get on the field because we do have some new faces and our numbers are up. So we'll have 90 some odd kids out there for spring. We haven't had that. It's nowhere close to what we've had in the last 2 years. So to get up there with full numbers and being able to go through full practice will be exciting. But it's the fact that we can throw those 6 kids into the mix and then pick up 2 more in April will be good. And it benefits those guys to get in early. The kids that have come in early, the Kyle Phillips, the Chase Codas, kids that have enrolled early. I think it's really helped them as they transitioned especially when you get around next August, where some kids, it's their first day of practice. Well, these kids have been on campus for 6 months. It's not their first day of practice. So.
From a big picture recruiting standpoint, a lot of the top talent of Southern California is going elsewhere. They're not staying home at UCLA or USC. What do you attribute that to? I mean, the two top quarterbacks in the country both went to the South.
Yeah,
what do you
but I
attribute
think
that
you
to?
look at what jobs are open. You know what I mean? You know, I know Bryce is, and I wish him the best luck. He's a tremendous player, but their quarterback's graduating, so he's got a chance to go in there and roll early in the spring and be a starting quarterback in the fall. So I think sometimes you got to look at it individually. I don't think there's unless you have 10 years of data, you can't really say that. It's one class that this seems to happen. You know, 2 years from now, there's going to be another trend that, hey, this is the trend. You really can't predict it as you go through, but you always want to recruit. You know, and the predominant amount of our class is usually local kids, but it does sometimes it doesn't fall that way. You know, we had 2 young men at linebacker from Georgia. We had never really recruited there, but both those kids came out here on their own with their families for unofficial visits. We were a school that they were very much attracted to, and they fit exactly what we were looking for as student athletes, both in the classroom and off the field, along with being really good football players. And so they were a good fit for us this year. But you know, we don't have a coach that full-time recruits in Georgia. No, will we? You know, I mean, we still have all 10 of our coaches are part of California, and we'll always have that. So.
Couple more.
You guys have, I think it's fair to say, you've gotten off to a slow start these last 2 years. Given that, would you consider changing anything about your approach to spring practice?
No, I don't think that has anything. I would look at the records of the teams you played.
Okay.
There's been some pretty good teams that we played in the last 2 years. So I think Oklahoma's been a college football playoff team. Cincinnati's been an 11-win team both years in a row. We traded out Fresno State for San Diego State. So maybe you wanted to switch that one around, play them to switch them off, but you can't predict that. That's the schedule. So, you know, but I don't think any of our things are because of how we practice in the spring is what happened to where we were in September against Oklahoma. So.
I guess maybe heightened sense of urgency just overall though for
I think our guys have a heightened sense of urgency every day they're here. It doesn't matter what day it is, no matter who they are. I also think birth dates have a lot to do with it. I mean, we had a lot more freshmen and sophomores 2 years ago than we had this year, so we'll be a little bit older. So I don't think your approach changes and how you prepare. I just think you got to let some of those kids grow up. Unfortunately, because of the numbers that we inherited here, that you know, as I just said, we're going to have 90 some odd kids out in the spring. We only had 60 out last spring. You know, so your numbers are up, so your depth is up. Those are things that will pay off for you in terms of how you're going to start and who you're going to play. So.
Last recruiting cycle, you gave the offers out to the players on the 8th. Are you planning on doing that again this year?
No, because I think we're a lot farther ahead. You know, so there's been a lot of offers out to younger kids earlier, so it's not a set date to get those out. Those will go out when, you know, one of the good things about what we did is we signed all of our high school kids in December, so all of our recruiting in January was looking at juniors and sophomores. So, you know, I think we're ahead of the game from that standpoint. And you know, but we're not going to wait till the 8th to send those out. There's a lot of kids that we've already seen in person and have offered because they meet the criteria academically and athletically of what we're looking for. So really it'll be based on that. If a kid doesn't have an offer, maybe just we're waiting on a test score or we're waiting on a little bit more information so that we can make an accurate decision on is he going to fit, is he going to be able to get into school here. So
you have a start date for spring practice?
Yeah, that Tuesday, is it the 3rd? Yeah, I think we go 3, 5, 7. That first Tuesday in March. So we'll go the same schedule we've had all along. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So we'll go for 2 weeks in March. Then we have finals. Then we have a spring break as the last week of March. And then the first 3 weeks of April, the same exact schedule, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. I think we culminate on the 18th, which is that 3rd Saturday in April. So it's the same exact schedule that we've had in the previous 2 years. So.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks, guys.